Let's be friends.
Have you not?
Here we go.
Greetings, one and all. Welcome back to the Ambassador Wing and episode 6 of the Tarantino podcast. Hope y'all are having a lovely day or evening wherever y'all are at watching this on YouTube. And we are back with another episode. And today we've expanded the panel a little bit. It's not just me and Ace. I've got two good friends, two regulars here on the channel. You know them, you love them. If you don't, what's wrong with you? Mr. Jack Beers and his much better half, Miss AVP Alicia Victoria Parker. Friends, good to see y'all. How you been?
I'm good.
Excellent.
Self-loathing.
We're just groovy.
Oh, just groovy.
No, you mean groovy.
Groovy.
Yes.
Groovy.
Yes. And today on the Tarantino podcast, we're doing something a little special, something a little different in honor of the upcoming holiday, All Hallows Eve, or as we call here in the States, Halloween. And we're going to be covering the Grindhouse duo of Death Proof and Planet Terror. One, of course, Death Proof, directed and written by our man, Mr. Quentin Tarantino. And Planet Terror, directed by his longtime friend and collaborative buddy, Mr. Robert Rodriguez. You know him, you love him. If you don't, again, I say, what's wrong with you? So, as always, make sure you hit that like button. Share this podcast out with all your friends, especially if they're fans of the man, Mr. Quentin Tarantino, which I have kind of modeled my hair after for today's proceedings. And we are going to kick off this discussion with Death Proof. And just a quick note, this was my first time watching both these movies. So, I'm going to be coming at this fresh. This is a pair of movies I have not seen before, and I will say, much enjoyed. Very much enjoyed. So, Death Proof. We got beautiful women. We've got muscle cars. We've got Kurt Russell playing a psychopathic stuntman named Stuntman Mike.
Steve?
I think it was.
Mike.
Stuntman Mike. Yeah, Stuntman Mike McKay was his full name because he did say it once. And we've got some absolutely wonderfully talented and beautiful actresses in this movie. We have got Mary Elizabeth Winstead, spouse of Mr. Ewan McGregor, a.k.a. Obi-Wan Kenobi, and General Harrison Dula. And we have got Rosario Dawson. She's been in a little bit of everything, and she's always good in it. You got Zoe Bell and, oh, for heaven's sakes, I can't remember the name of the other actresses that were in this, but I do remember their character names. You've got Shauna Banana, you've got Jungle Julie, and you've got Butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
Say again, Ace?
For the one chick you're referring to, for the second half, I think the character's name was Kim, the girl in the camo.
And one of them is Sydney,
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the actress name.
Oh, wow, I did not know that. Wow, okay.
Yep,
And
Sidney Poitier's daughter is Sydney.
Quentin B. Okay, cool. So we got a member of Old Hollywood, one of the kids of Old Hollywood, Mr. Sidney Poitier, who is sadly no longer with us. But Quentin being Quentin, he loves his exploitation films. This is not the first time he's done a quote-unquote exploitation film. Of course, he did Jackie Brown. And this is another homage to that particular genre. In this case, the female exploitation, the badass babe exploitation type of film. And a fairly simplistic setup. A psychopathic stuntman killing beautiful young women that whose only crime seems to be that in some cases they're just a little too bitchy. But Ace, Jack, and Alicia, your thoughts on Death Proof?
Who wants to start?
So I'd never seen these before myself, but it was interesting to see it. To see these women that they can hold their own, they're not afraid to fight. The first batch is a little bit more naive. The second was a little bit more. They come across naive, but don't underestimate them.
Mr. Beers.
Yeah.
Yes, for me it was it's one of those things where you gotta watch. The best way to watch these things is the way it was kind of made. So I kind of wish drive-in still existed. This would have been
Some.
the perfect. That would have been the perfect uh, environment to watch it in. But
Oh yeah.
my bedroom was also a pretty good environment to watch it. So
Yes, it
uh,
worked.
hey, I mean the quality of the popcorn is just the same. So,
Saved you a couple bucks
Here,
there.
here.
but what I liked how they were both different, but they had a lot of similarities. Um, both movies had that rib restaurant in both movies.
Were they in both?
Yeah,
I only remember JT's from Planetara. I don't remember there being a rib restaurant in the second movie because the other one was called the Texas Chili Parlor,
or
and the other
was
one
that
was called Guero's, which was a Mexican restaurant. I don't remember
Oh.
them going to a
Maybe-
barbecue place in Death Proof.
I don't remember that either.
okay, maybe I was wrong. I have to look that up now.
It's
Although,
okay.
although they are set in the same world, obviously, because on the radio you do hear like "In Memory of Jungle Julia." And,
Yeah, in Planetara, yeah.
I gotta say, this was my second time seeing this movie since the first time I saw it just after high school, and I liked it better than the first time. The first time I kind of did not like it. I mean, I disliked it because at the time I didn't get it, but now I have some more context, so I like it a lot better. I understand it better, and there was this description given of the stuntman Mike character by James Rolfe of Angry Video Game Nerd Cinemassacre fame, described stuntman Mike being kind of similar to Dracula in terms of like he'll be in front of people in not broad daylight, but just carrying out his business and whatever, and then when he's kind of private with people, he'll be his true self, sort of thing.
Kind of like with the character that Rose McGowan plays in this, and she actually there's three actors that have recurring roles to varying degrees. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino has his standard cameo at the beginning or midpoint of Death Proof, and then he has a slightly smaller cameo towards the end of Planet Terror. You've also got Earl Park back as Sheriff McGraw and son number one in Death Proof, and then he's back again in Planet Terror, and then of course, obviously Rose McGowan. Or no, there was somebody else. Who was it? No, I think that was the only three. I'm pretty sure. And then I don't know who this woman is, but they had an actress by the name of Zoe Bell playing herself in Death Proof, and she was part of the crew of girls and everything in the that Stuntman Mike goes after in the second set piece of the movie. So
She was actually Uma Thurman's
let me
stunt woman
ask
for Kill
you.
Bill.
Really?
Oh, was she? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's
that makes
that's
sense.
why
then.
what
Okay.
her prior claim to fame is. I didn't mean to cut you
Okay.
off.
No, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and
No,
I
it's
must
fine.
say
Ace.
that
It's all good. No worries.
Death Proof has the typical hallmarks of a Tarantino movie: his type of dialogue, his awesome soundtrack, and of course, foot shots.
Yes, plenty of foot shots.
Yeah, lots
I-
of.
Always have to point
This
that
was
out.
like
Er-
foot shot
ergo-
palooza.
Tarantino's right foot.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because we all are pretty familiar with Kurt Russell's body of work throughout his career, and most often he plays either an anti-hero or a straight-up protagonist. He very rarely plays an antagonist. What did y'all think of his performance in Death Proof?
An
Yeah,
absolute jackass.
I kind of wish I knew what his motivation was, other than just maybe he was just a sick dude. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I thought it was he was a really interesting character because it was, you didn't know what he was capable of. And it was actually
Mm,
surprising that all it took to scare him off was a gun. Like that's like you'd think
getting
that he
shot.
would have you would think
Yeah.
that he had a gun. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, this is a guy who has worked in the stunt industry obviously for decades. And I mean, he even talks about it during the scene at the Texas chili parlor. And he's talking about all this stuff, and these girls are just saying they're nodding, and he's like, "You've never seen any of these shows or movies, have you?" And they're like, "Nope." And it's semi-comical because it's almost life or art imitating life because we all work around younger people, and when we're talking about these shows and movies that we all grew up watching and everything, and they're just kind of jeering headlights, and we're all like, "You've never heard of any of this stuff," and they're like, "Nope." And I'm like, "Well, they teach you all in school." Seriously.
Yeah, you want to smack him upside the
So
ankle.
now, yeah, like quit reading Shakespeare. Go watch some good horror movies.
Hmm.
Okay,
I agree.
let me. Okay, let me ask y'all something because Ace, I think it was you that mentioned this. We really don't know what Stuntman Mike's motivation is, but at the same time, there are some clues that might lead to why he is the way he is. He goes after. Okay, in the first instance, with the first group of girls, the three, Rose McGowan's character plus the other three. I think it's no four. It's four. My bad. But there's three primarily. They all seem kind of driftless, like they really don't have much going on in their lives, and you almost get the impression that he's going after them because he feels like maybe they're a waste of space, and he's just kind of thinning out the population. Or maybe am I reading too much into that? What do y'all think?
That makes sense.
Interesting theory. I don't really have a grounds to disagree with you. Ju- I couldn't really see much more beyond the like. I kind of see what you're getting at, but just within the context of the movie, I'm not sure if there's anything beyond that. Hard for me to say to fully agree is what I'm getting at.
To it?
I, I think as a female, I would say maybe that other females had rejected him that may have looked like that, and he was like, "I'm getting my revenge on them for that reason."
Hmm.
Interesting.
That's
And
possible
actually,
too. Although,
it
oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh,
because actually something I did. It is a common thing across Tarantino movies. Like he's kind of paying homage like to old cinema and whatnot and exploitation genre.
mm,
These girls kind of all have a sort of 1970s aesthetic with them. Like the first group of girls mostly, and
mm,
and I wonder if that could be a partial motivation because that was kind of his time and whatnot of like when he was in his
mm.
prime doing stunts and so forth, but these girls kind of are like just doing the aesthetics of it, but they have modern phones and this, that, and the other. Like, but that's just my viewpoint. The second group of girls, not as much. There's some, but not as much.
Yeah. Jack, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, that was actually, yeah. He covered what I was about to say actually.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Um, the second group of girls, these are all women that work in the film industry. Obviously, they're currently working on a film set or working on a film production at the time. And they work in the crew aspect more so, except for Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, Lee,
Mhm.
who is actually a model slash actress. And, but the other three girls, Abernathy, played by Rosario Dawson, um, obviously Zoe Bell, and then you've got the other girl. We'll just call her Miss Poitier. I think her name was Kim. She's a stunt woman, obviously herself, and Mike thinks he's got their number, but he comes to find out, and he's very much in error because these are women who are rather fearless. They're not as soft. They're a little more. They're very much more hard edged, a little more, exuberant and everything like the first group of girls was, but they have more gumption in a manner of speaking. They have more guts. They've got more balls
They're willing to fight
than
back.
he gives them credit for.
And there's stunt people
So,
like him.
Um,
Yeah, they can hold their
yeah,
own against
well,
him.
particularly Zoe Bell and yeah, and obviously they do because he gives them a run for their money, but then they turn the tables on him and they're like, hell no, we're not just going to lie down and take this and everything, especially when they realize, I think, like I said, when Kim takes out her Roscoe, as they call it, which is accurate for the genre, and clips him in the shoulder, and he's bleeding. And you see a completely different side of Stuntman Mike from that time on. He's much
Oh yeah,
more vulnerable. He's a lot
he's scared.
more. He's spooked, big time spooked. Yeah, scared even. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting spin on this because they become the aggressor, and you think, okay, maybe there's going to be a twist here where he somehow survives, and the girls get pinned for going after him, maybe. So
I didn't think about that.
I think it's kind of a. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but a passing of the torch. Like he's the old guard of stunt people, kind of past his prime, and they're in their prime now, and they kind of get the drop on him, and they have a couple new tricks that he didn't have at the time, or at least not anymore at this point in his life. One of them's packing heat.
Right. And then on top of that,
well,
they
not
could have just ran away, but then they went after him, and they gave him a really good car. I love that car chase that they did in that whole
16
thing.
minute car chase.
That was pretty good. But then
Yeah.
when he finally crashes, and they pull him out, and they start kicking his ass. It was real satisfying to see, especially after what he did to the first group of women.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
just
and
deserves.
yeah, let's rewind just a smidge and everything because when he takes out that first group of girls, it's ghastly because you see dismembered limbs, you see a wheel go through somebody's head. It's visceral. It's very,
Yes,
very gruesome. But you know what? It's appropriate, one, for Tarantino, and two, it's appropriate for the genre, for sure. So, speaking of which, the stunt work, the stunt driving, and so on, what'd y'all think of that?
excellent.
It was
Yeah,
definitely nail biting, held you grip to your edge of your seat, like, oh, are they gonna survive
Yeah.
this?
yeah.
Freaking
Yeah.
awesome, especially on the second half with Zoe, because
Yes.
that's her
Which is
actually on the hood of
car.
the car, no CGI, not even a
Mm,
harness or anything
the
to protect
ship's
her. That's
mask.
her holding out for dear life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
commitment.
Hold up to the front of your pants and hope you
Yeah,
don't
and
fall
you
off.
feel for her because
Right.
because you
Hold it
realize
still.
just how much danger she's in, and that I won't lie. I was like, what's a ship's mast, and why do I suddenly feel very, very nervous for her? And then
Yes.
justifiably so, because she's hanging on to two belts and that's it. And when they ask Abernathy, and can I just say, I love the names for all the girls, especially Rosario Dawson's character, Abernathy.
Yes.
I love that name. Very kick ass, very cool name.
It's a good name. It's unique.
But yes, very much so. And one of the things I found humorous is when the second group of girls, when Zoe finds the car out there on the guy's farm, and they're like, "Let's see if we can get him to let us take it for a spin just for a test drive," because the one girl's always like, "I've always wanted to drive one of these cars because prominently featured in a movie in that world called Vanishing Point. And Rosario Dawson's character, Abernathy, she kind of sweetens the pot a little bit for the guy. And here's the funny thing. I don't know if you all recognize that guy, but he was one of the two. He was in Little Nicky. He played one of the rockheads that was a fan of Little Nicky.
Oh.
And him and the
Oh.
guy.
like this.
Yeah, that one. I think his name was Jay or something like that.
Beer lowers the body temperature. I read that in a beer magazine.
And the one thing I found funny is after the other girls leave by herself, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, she's in her cheerleader costume, and he asks Abernathy, he's like, "Is it a porno?" She's like, "Yes, yes, it is." But she's like,
just keep it
"Don't
under
mention
balance,
it to her because
shy."
she's really shy." And then he walks up to her. She's sitting there all by herself on I think she's sitting on like a pile of railroad ties or sitting against a barn or something. He goes, "Ace, you say it because you can say it better because you do the voice." He just says hi. So, okay.
Hi. I can't get it
Close
down
enough.
to a T
And she's
because
like,
early in the week I watched it.
That was actually pretty good.
Thanks.
And she goes, gulp.
And for
Oh God, I'm doomed.
And I just have to say, for all those young women out there who are empowered by the actress when she played Ramona Flower in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, watch that scene. See, all that empowerment will disappear. Scott Pilgrim versus the World ruined an entire generation, as Negative XP sang.
I've actually never seen. I think I've seen bits and pieces of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but I've never seen it all the way through.
I watched 10 minutes. I'd turn it off because I can't stand Michael Cera.
I saw it once and never again.
Fair enough.
Yeah, he plays one character, and it's always the same character.
Oh no.
The only movie I have seen him in that I actually really enjoyed, and I like the rest of the cast better than I did him, was Zombieland.
Okay.
Because, well, you can't go wrong with Emma Stone. You can't go wrong with Woody
That was
Harrelson.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, was it Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah.
We're so much alike.
Jesse Eisenberg's a little
at
bit
least in
more
appearance.
likable.
That's true.
Anyway.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. You're not
Except
wrong
when
there.
he's Lex Luthor.
So, oh, don't get me started. You know, at first I thought his
Close the can of worms.
interpretation, his performance. Real quick segue. At first I kind of liked what he did, but the more I watched his performance as Lex Luthor, I was like, "What the hell are you doing? You're not cunning. You're not suave. You're not debonair. You're not Gene Hackman. You're sure as hell ain't Clancy Brown, and Clancy Brown just did the voice of Lex Luthor. What the hell are you doing?"
Carrot Top.
Abomination.
No, except Carrot Top is funny.
Right.
The props are
We got
funny. He's
weird.
not.
Okay, he has a funny shtick. Let's put it that way. Anyway. But
He's
yeah.
a buff guy now.
Yeah, I don't care.
Probably roided up.
But the one other point I wanted to discuss briefly, and we kind of touched on this, but I want to dig a little bit more into this because honestly, Zoe Bell was absolutely positively fearless. And I love what Abernathy says after they skid off the road and they've kind of separated from Mike, Kurt Russell's character, and they're looking around. They're like, "Where's Zoe?" And she's like, "I'm fine. I'm right here." And they're like, "Cat
so
like
funny.
reflexes."
When
Zoe
she
the
jumps
cat
up,
strikes again.
That lady's
Yeah,
got guts.
Zoe the cat.
She's got guts.
She
And
has
9
got
lives.
major big time guts. She's got bigger balls than some men I know. And no, none of them are on this panel. Or me.
I was about to say, there are parts of my body you've not seen.
I'm guesstimating, Ace.
Not yet,
and
at
Jack.
least.
No one's balls are as big as Ash's.
Valid point. Valid point.
Oh, wait. We have a challenger. We have Johnny
Oh Lord.
Lawrence. Okay.
I'm gonna put my money on Ash because he's got the mechanical hand, he's got the boomstick, and then he's got the chainsaw hand.
Yeah, you're probably
And
right.
karate does not top a chainsaw hand.
That's
Or
a
a
good point.
boomstick.
They're gonna have to give him a
This
weapon.
is my boomstick. So,
Groovy.
okay. But yeah, a big, massive shout out to Miss Zoe Bell for giving one of the best stunt performances that I have seen in quite a long time. And from the ambassador wing to Miss Zoe Bell, we salute you. So, any further thoughts on Death Proof, or do y'all want to move on to the second film of the day?
I'm trying to gather my thoughts. You guys go ahead.
There was this whole big thing about a lap dance. That was like half of that movie.
Yeah.
Thank you for refreshing my memory on that.
And can I be frank? I didn't find that arousing.
I didn't give a shit either. I was like, okay, I was.
It was over exaggerated. I'll say that much.
Well, not to mention the girl butterfly. She has no personality. She's actually kind of a bitch.
Yeah, and she looks like she's half awake and high.
Well, here's the funny thing, because throughout the course of the first part of the movie, they're
I know
all
she's
trying to
high.
score and get high.
True.
Mhm.
Very true. But even before then, she looks high, which is kind of
Yeah, she looks
the Boris
way
Karloff
stimulating.
have open eyelids thing.
Hey, don't you disrespect the Karloff. We do not
I'm not
disrespect
I'm not disrespecting Karloff. That was one of my favorite movies, one of my uncle's favorite movies. But yeah, because of Death Proof, it sadly set too high of a standard for me when I expected a lap dance in person. Never had as good of one as that, even when I paid for it.
Amen.
Well, quite frankly, well, the funny thing is, as it started, I was like, you know what? I think I could skip over this part, and I fast forwarded, and it looked very awkward as I did. As the
Was your
fast
wife in
forward,
the room watching you?
Like,
no,
what are you looking at?
He's like, I'm
no,
fast
the
forwarding,
reason
honey.
no, she knew what I was watching and everything, but honestly, I know you're giving me a hard time, Mace, but honestly, I was just so uninterested. I was like, I'm just gonna fast forward. I don't care
Yeah.
about some
skippable.
skinny. Yeah, very skippable. So, but one thing that definitely is not skippable. Any other thoughts on Death Proof before we move on?
Don't underestimate females.
That is true, but especially when it's Rosario Dawson, Zoe Bell, the daughter of Sidney Poitier, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Hmm.
Definitely. Oh, and one thing that did annoy me somewhat was when they're all in the car, and the first group of girls, and every time they drive past a billboard with Jungle Juliet, they all make laugh this high pitched squeal.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I just want to be like, okay, can you die yet, please? Because we know that's all. We know what's going to happen. Y'all are just annoying the crap out of me. Can you die already?
I remember the first time I didn't get that, and then the second time I watched it, that was the idea. Oh, they're in this movie. That's why they're cheering for it. I didn't realize it the first time I saw it.
Radio
That's it.
promo.
Just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
pretty much. So, all right. Moving on to Planet Terror. And I have to admit, like I said, I've only seen bits and pieces of this. To sit down and watch it all the way through. And I have to admit, even though he only had 2 cameo appearances in this movie, it was so damn good, especially considering what he's going through now. It was so damn good to see Bruce Willis up on the screen.
Oh yes,
And
Definitely.
he was so damn good as Colonel Muldoon.
yes.
I love the beret. I love the goatee beard. I loved his performance.
I wish he
Go ahead,
did
Jack.
more. I was just gonna say, I wish Bruce Willis did more military roles than he did in movies.
That's true. I mean, he did this one obviously, which was kind of a cameo. He did that one called Tears of the Sun. And I'm like, what the hell is this? No, he was better in the Expendables movies, and that was only cameos there too.
True.
I only
But
saw the first one
we've
of
got
those.
you've got a say again, Ace.
I only saw the first Expendables, so don't know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
But again, another great cast. Of course, we got Freddie Rodriguez, brother of Robert Rodriguez. We got Rose McGowan in a more prominent role in this movie, playing a go-go dancer, not a stripper, a go-go
Not
dancer
a
named
stripper.
Dar. Not a stripper, because there is a difference.
Yes, there is a difference. My sister can attest to that. Interpret that as you will.
I don't think I want to because I don't want I don't want to possibly offend you because you are my friend and I do not. I try not to speak ill of my friend's family. So
You could. Yeah, I appreciate it, but you can speak ill of my grandma. I don't care. I speak ill.
no,
That's
that's a line I will not cross.
Dude, my
But-
father was a supercomputer. My mother was a petri dish. So imagine what my grandmother was.
Was she a hamster? Was your did your grandfather smell of elderberries?
You know me so well, Mr. Ambassador.
And if anybody gets that reference, you get a gold star and a cookie.
I expected that in the mail by Monday at least. Tuesday at the latest.
Yeah, but what's the movie?
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries.
Damn, that's the best impersonation I've ever heard.
That was really good. Yeah.
That was actually really good. Anyway, yeah, just a flesh wound. Anyway, we've got Josh Brolin as a possessive jerk face asshole doctor, and his let's just say bisexual wife. We've got again Mr. Earl Park back as Sheriff McGraw and number one son, of course. Got Quentin back in this one as well. Let's see. I'm trying to remember who all else is in this. I can't remember. Oh, Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn in this, and I was like, I am so glad to see him. He was so good in this as the sheriff, or the deputy sheriff rather, because Earl Park
Right.
obviously is the sheriff, so he would be the deputy sheriff. Tom Savini as one of the deputies. Greg Nicotero doing. That's one thing we forgot to mention. Greg Nicotero, who is a big name special effects makeup guy, did the special effects work or the makeup for both this movie and for Death Proof.
Really good job, especially with
Yeah.
the moment where Bruce Willis's boils start to reveal themselves.
Mhm.
That was so good
Yes.
because it comes from nothing, and then someone
Yeah. Yeah, so good. I can't remember the name of the guy who played the scientist, but he was damn good in this too.
yes,
The one that gets his head blown off.
that was really good.
The ball collector.
Yeah,
Oh
the
my
ball
God.
collector. I'm like, damn, you've got an interesting hobby. But-
Maybe he was one of the first people to teach gender studies in college.
Damn, if that ain't the truth. Wow. Way to go, Hayes. But anyway, obviously, Planetaire is a homage, as obviously to the grindhouse genre, but specifically the B horror / action flick and apocalyptic action flick in this case as well. Guys, I'm gonna kind of let you everything. Where do y'all want to start with this one?
I would say just the idea of what escaped at first, because when in the beginning of the movie, it was like three of something escaped, and they didn't know what it was. Turns out, it turns out it's these infected people or creatures. They become these. I don't know if they become zombies or like. I know there's like I know 28 days later they go with the infected type of. So
yeah,
I think
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, totally,
I
Jack.
think it was. I think they were going that route with that. Um, but yeah, I thought that was really. I thought that was really fun. Um, I liked how you followed these people, and then I mean, especially Rose McGowan's character, where she
Sure.
she starts off as a go-go dancer, and you see her in her go-go dancing job, and she's like, she goes to her boss, she's like, I quit, goes off, and gets her leg cut, and then it ends up in the hospital, gets her leg cut off, and then that's like the basis for what she becomes, and she becomes almost like she almost becomes an Ash Williams, except
Yes.
instead of a chainsaw to the hand, it's a gun to
M16,
the M16. Later on, a chain gun,
Gatling gun or
Gatling
minigun.
gun,
Yeah.
That's a
to
good point.
the
I didn't even think of that.
yeah.
That's a very good
Yeah,
point,
good.
man.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Jack. Well done.
And I must say, with her, opening scene in doing her dance routine, I thought to myself, huh, the feminist and pseudo-intellectual film critics could have a field day would talk about the male gaze with this.
Yeah.
Think? I mean, okay, I'm gonna bring this up, and we're all adults here. Who did it better, Rose McGowan or Pamela Anderson? I'm gonna have to say, Pam Anderson. Sorry, Rose.
Probably.
Pam Anderson and what, though?
Barbed wire.
Oh. I've actually not seen that one. I am ashamed to admit it!
And you call yourself a man? Hang your head in shame.
Well, I left my man card in the car. Otherwise, I'd I'd hand it over through here. Sad part is I do have one. I got from a giant two-fisted manly tales GoFundMe or whatever by Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan, Ramble.
Hang your head in shame, Ace.
Joke's on you, I have no shame.
Yes, you do, and I just exposed it.
Yeah. Only I can expose myself.
Only I can expose myself. There we go.
There's a reason I'm not allowed within 200 yards of public schools.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
I know, too far.
Yes.
It was because of the teachers, not the students. Don't worry. I'm not P. Diddy. Topical.
Okay. Wow. You never know what's going to come up here on the Ambassador Wing, particularly during the episode of Tarantino.
Instantly demonetized. Instantly demonetized.
Unsubscribe.
Thanks a lot, Ace.
There's a reason I'm not monetized on my channel. Not that I get more than 2 views per video. When I do make videos.
Yeah, exactly. Be a little more consistent.
Motivation, drinking problems, all that.
You said it, not me. Anyway,
I said,
the premise for this movie is pretty straightforward. People versus infected zombies, or just cannibalistic human beings that have been infected with a virus called DC2, or DC, yeah, it's DC2. I think. It's
also
DC something.
It reminds me of GC 161. That's
I know what that's from. That's from Return of the Living Dead. I think.
I thought it was from the Secret World of Alex Mack. That was the chemical that went over Alex Mack that made her. That was a Nickelodeon
I've
thing
never
from the 90s.
seen that show or
I'm
that
so
movie.
sorry.
I think of it kind of as the T-virus from Resident Evil.
No,
There we
this is
go.
more. This is actually cooler than the T virus.
Well, the question is, are you thinking of the movie or the games?
What do you think?
Movie.
The movies.
I've only
'Cause I've
seen
never
the
played
first three. I played the first one. Director's cut.
I've never played any of the Resident Evil games. I really have no desire.
Next thing you're gonna say that you have no desire to play the Final Fantasy games.
Actually, no. I played the remake of Final Fantasy 1. I'm gonna eventually get Part 2 Rebirth. I just gotta have,
Remake. I can understand.
Yeah,
the
but you know what?
PS1
It's actually
remaster.
really good. So quit being such a cynic.
You know me, dead puppies.
Yeah, and stop
whatnot.
being a little less you. Alicia, you've been kind of quiet. Your thoughts on Planet Terror? What did you? Well, I don't want to exclude you because you're here too. So what?
And she just watched it.
I did.
What you, as a first timer just like me, what did you think of Planet Terror?
It was definitely a hidden gem for sure. I mean, Rose McGowan, I'd seen her in Charmed. I'd seen her in this pastor's wife movie where she played an abusive pastor's wife, literally. And in this one, she's like does a 180. She's like, I'm not a victim. Don't underestimate me. I can shoot. I can defend myself. And I'm like,
I have 101 useless talents or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
She can bend backwards even when she does some of those shots.
She can arch her back and evade a
becomes-
rocket.
It does become useful because she evades the rocket, yes.
101 useless talent. She's got me beat by 2. I gotta step up my game.
You need 3 extra. You need Ace to be over surpasser.
Well, I'd hope to at least even the playing field, but if I could,
Yeah, but let's be honest here, Ace. You will never be as attractive as Rose McGowan, even though she has kind of let herself go.
hurt my
Unfortunately.
feelings, man.
But for
I'm not pretty.
but I will say, in her case, she does have a valid reason because of all the crap she had to deal with, particularly considering the extremely problematic executive producers of both these movies.
Right. Yeah,
Which
I
is
think-
why I'm wearing this shirt.
Yes, and I approve of that shirt, and I approve that those two guys need to be destroyed. So yes.
Done.
For
Yeah.
those of you who
Castrated.
like the shirt and want it, hit me up on Instagram, and I will take pre-orders.
You heard him. From finger. That's what she said. Okay.
One between these lines.
I was selling this, but then for some reason Cafe Press closed my store.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll open a new one later.
Let me ask you, of the two movies, granted, one's Tarantino, one is Rodriguez, which one did you enjoy more? Did you enjoy Tarantino's or did you enjoy Rodriguez's movie more? Now, granted, they're two different genres of them within themselves, or anything. But let me ask you, honestly.
I enjoyed Death Proof more.
Mhm.
I don't know. I like the car chase. I like the idea of like the first act of the movie is like these poor girls, they get killed, and then for the rest of the movie it's not the case anymore. It's these
Right.
other women who could have been, but then they got
They
lucky.
turned
As
the
I said.
tables.
They turned the tables. Once again, I love the moment when they're all sitting there wondering if she's okay, and then you just see her jump out of the weeds. I'm okay.
Yeah. Now, one aspect of Planet Terror that I like is Rodriguez really went deep on the whole grindhouse aspect of this movie, the whole B movie aspect of this movie, because you had a extremely well done fake trailer for a fake movie starring one of everybody's favorite Latino actors, Mr. Danny Trejo, which
Machete.
eventually actually became an actual movie,
Funny enough.
Machete.
Ironically, that's the movie I showed her first.
Oh, Machete.
Yes.
How many of those have they done? Have they? I think they've done what, at least
Only
two
two.
of them.
Only two,
Yeah, that's what I
think.
thought. Machete kills or something, or
Yes.
Machete lives.
I think
Okay,
Machete
that's what
Kills. It came out 2013. I think
Okay.
Machete the movie came out 2010, and then these other ones came out a year or two before.
Yeah,
These were
yeah, they came out.
2007.
Yeah, they came out in like the early 2000s,
Right.
and the whole this was for both movies. You had the little animated age restriction on both movies, where it turned for Death Proof. It turned from a little cartoon lion or panther into the full adult lion, and then the second one it was just the full adult panther.
hmm
Yes.
I have to admit I love that. That and also the
Was that
grainy
a?
ass. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, no. I was asking. Was that a custom thing for just their movie, or was that something that was from other movies that they were able to bring into that?
I can't.
Like,
It might
was
have been
there?
something that was done custom for their movies,
Okay.
but
Yeah, I think so.
something tells me that back in the day they probably did something similar for movies that were. Well, you have to remember, up until like I think like the 1960s or 70s, somewhere along in there wasn't a rating system for movies.
That's true.
Parents just kind of gauged what they thought their kids could handle and what they couldn't, and the rest was gravy.
I think it was 1968 because Night of the Living Dead was one of the last unrated movies you could see before the rating system kicked in.
I think you're right. Yeah, because I think it was late 60s, early 70s when the movie rating system started coming out.
Sounds about right.
But the other thing I really appreciate, because like I said, Rodriguez really went heavy on the whole B movie aspect. You had glitchy colorization where
Yes.
in Death Proof in particular, there was a whole section, like a 10-15 minute section where it was in black and white. I actually kind of like
Yeah.
that. But with what Rodriguez did was he had the scratchy film stock, he had the
Yes.
glitchy sound and so on, and you had even a section where it said missing reel,
So
and it was
The film burned up.
yes, film burned up because the scene was too hot. That's what I was gonna say.
It was
scene
too hot.
yeah, that
It
was
was
actually the opening
eyes.
scene, if I remember correctly, with Rose McGowan doing her dance. If I remember correctly.
Nope, the sex scene.
The sex scene.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah, between Freddie Rodriguez and Rose McGowan. Yeah,
Yeah.
They had to
And-
keep the dance in there to lure in the male demographic.
that's true. And
I mean, the blood and guts was going to do it anyway, but it was.
And it's not like you really needed to know what happened for the rest of the act at
Well,
that
we
point.
know she ends up pregnant. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
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 Now let me ask you. Freddie Rodriguez. I did not know he was an actor. I didn't even know Robert Rodriguez had a brother. To be honest with you, what did y'all think of his character El Rey or the El Rey?
He was good. I was impressed. I was wondering why he wasn't in more Robert Rodriguez action films.
That's true. Because he's done a lot and everything. I mean, he did El Mariachi, and then he did Mariachi, or with Antonio Banderas, obviously, and Selma Hayek. And then, of course, you've got Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
And his brother was not part of any of those. I wasn't.
Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, I was just. Yeah, you're right. He did all
Yeah.
those, but was his brother part of those? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I don't think so. Or even the Spy
Unless
Kids
he was a
movies.
stunt double or something. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. There is
Because Freddie. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say. I thought it was. I thought he was a really good actor, and I thought he should have been in more action films. That's all.
Yeah. Because he's definitely got that look. Now, granted, he's short statured, but we've all seen actors that aren't, like 6
Tom
6
Cruise
foot
is,
or whatever.
Tom Cruise is like shorter than this figure, and he plays a lot of action figures.
You mean
Roles.
action?
Action
Yeah.
roles. I'm sorry.
Action roles, action figures. What's the difference?
Yes.
Well, one moves, the other one doesn't.
Mm,
Either way, he's
Obviously,
getting too old to do either
unless
one, though?
unless you're Rick Moranis playing with your dolls in your private quarters when you're Colonel Sanders
Dark
comes
Elf.
barging in.
time!
I
No,
can't
sir,
breathe
I
in this
didn't.
thing.
I didn't see you playing with your action figures. All right, good. Get out.
I can't breathe in this thing.
In terms of Freddie Rodriguez' performance, I thought he was fine for the movie. I mean, it's the typical action thing, like when he spins the guns around and got the others this guy's got to be good. I think in real life, it doesn't matter if you can spin guns good, because what matters is you line up your shot and hit your target.
That's true.
And he always hits.
Yeah,
He
Or at
never
least in the
misses.
movie he does.
He
And I
says he
think
never
his-
misses.
yeah, and I think his character was a partial inspiration for a movie reviewer on here on YouTube. I'm not going to say who, because I don't want to give him any unnecessary publicity. I'll refer to him as the Blister Buster.
Buster. You'll have to tell us once we're off air, because I'm not sure who that is. So, I will admit, both this movie, but Planet Terror in particular, really fed to that aspect of my personality that still is somewhat teenagerish and loves just a simple blood and guts, balls to the wall, outrageous action movie, and reminds me of stuff that like my mom and my dad and maybe my grandparents would have watched back in the day, and I've been like, yeah, we watched stuff like this. It was fun. And that was the intent, I think. That was what Rodriguez and Tarantino wanted to do with these movies. They really wanted to show their appreciation and their love for the grindhouse genre of filmmaking. I mean, because let's be honest, yes, this is grindhouse, but it's grindhouse in this case with a budget. And I mentioned that earlier, but especially with Planet Terror, you could see the time that they took with the prosthetic makeup, with the explosions. Granted, the explosions still looked kind of cheap and cheesy, and the fire and everything, particularly when JT's barbecue place is fully emblazed, or is
That looked really
partially
cool,
emblazed.
That looks so cool.
And,
That place
It
made me hungry
does.
for barbecue.
Me too.
yeah, and
Makes me want to go to Swig and Swine right
JT's
now.
Say again, Ace.
It makes me want to go get some Swig and Swine right now.
Right on, brother. But
Road trip.
for me, it would be Ruby's down in Bryant, Texas. And, that's the great thing about both these movies. They both place, at least one act or the whole movie takes place in Texas, where the other one, and everything with Death Proof, the second half takes place in Lebanon, Tennessee, which might as well be a stand-in for Texas. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
Pretty
Yep.
much.
It's the middle of nowhere, so yeah.
Yeah, really.
It's like
But-
the sticks of the woods.
Let me ask you all. Which weapon was better? The M16 with the grenade and rocket launcher, or the minigun? Which did y'all like better? On
M16 was able, with the rocket launcher, was able to do explosions. So yes.
Yeah, I agree, and especially
Say
because
hello to my little friend.
you can reload it easier because a minigun will heat up. You got to give it time to cool. You don't need that with an M16, or at least not as much.
Not
It's
as
just
much.
let
No.
it cool while reloading.
The way that handle is made, you can hold it while it's cool. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, not to mention, I have a feeling Rose McGowan, although I didn't get a chance to watch any of the special features for either one of these movies because I didn't have the time. I get the impression that she enjoyed working with Robert Rodriguez and even with Quentin,
I think so.
but she didn't particularly care for the producers or executive
Right.
producers
I think that's
specifically.
That's understandable.
Can
I
you
think
blame
that's
her?
probably yeah. I agree.
Because you
Every
get
time
the
I saw their
impression.
names, we both were like, "Oh, fuck those guys." Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, we're just like,
I felt the same way. I
yeah,
felt the same way.
yeah.
But you get the impression that Tarantino and Rodriguez, they protect their crew and they protect their cast especially.
They do.
right.
I
So,
think so. I hope so. I know. I
no,
know. If you like, if I want to move this over a little to like the Kevin Smith realm, I know
mhm,
Kevin Smith did his best to protect his, but
mhm.
he didn't know about a lot of that stuff
True.
going on, and I think
No.
Quentin also didn't know, and Robert didn't know. I think it was one of those things where it was like Selma Hayek knew, but Selma Hayek didn't take Kevin Smith aside and be like, "Oh, this is what happened."
Mm.
Uh, I'm pretty sure in the same fashion, I'm, they didn't go to Robert Rodriguez or Quentin Tarantino. If anything did happen, they didn't, they didn't tell either. They didn't tell them, or whatever was said was said. It was just in so much confidence that they'll never say.
Yeah, and
But
I appreciate, I understand that fact and everything.
yeah, but
But, you know,
I was going to say, just kind of moving it on to the Kevin Smith thing. He just came out with a movie called 430, the 430 movie.
hmm,
In
okay.
that movie, he does a bunch of fake trailers in the fashion of Grindhouse, in the
Hmm.
Grindhouse fashion, um,
Hmm.
which I thought was very, uh, that I mean that's they're all friends. Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, all of these
Oh, yeah.
directors. Yeah, they know each other, they're friends, and so like they also like give each other, you know,
Advice, suggestions, stuff like that, inspire each other. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I'll be honest with you all and everything. And for most people that follow the channel and everything, you all know who some of my favorite directors are. Tarantino's one of them. Robert
yes,
Rodriguez to a degree, definitely Kevin Smith. With Tarantino, it's his dialogue and his setup and his love for film. For Kevin Smith, it's his writing and his ability to make me laugh, and for a lot of other people too, to make people laugh. And Rodriguez, just balls to the wall action dude, and I love him for it. And I will say this: I know I might catch some flack, and I don't care. I think he got hamstrung quite a bit when he was doing Book of Boba Fett because honestly, that show had a lot of potential, and you could see his fingerprints on Book of Boba Fett. Not to mention the episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian that he directed, and he did
yes,
a great job with that. And it's just a shame that Book of Boba Fett turned out the way it did because I would love to see Rich Rodriguez return to the Star Wars universe because he brings a very interesting aesthetic. And you see that aesthetic, particularly in Planet Terror, because it isn't just the guys that are kicking ass. Yeah, the women are somewhat scantily clad, but that's the idea of a grindhouse, of an exploitation type of movie. The women can kick ass, but they look good doing it.
right,
And I can't remember the actress's name. I feel really bad about this, but the one that's married to Josh Brolin's character, she's
yes,
she's a Spitfire herself, and then we find out that she's Sheriff McGraw's daughter.
right.
And Sheriff McGraw is a kick-ass himself, even though he's kind of up in years. He's in what his maybe mid to late 60s.
Hmm.
He's kicking ass, and he
Yeah, I mean,
survives.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
And these movies are a great example of well-written female characters that can kick ass but can still be feminine.
Hmm.
They can still show
Yeah.
vulnerability, they can still show emotion, but when the situation comes up for it, they can pull their crap together and they can kick ass just as good as some of the guys. Maybe not in with the same way as the guys can, but they've still got the guts to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
any other thoughts on Planetary? Anything that I may have that we haven't discussed, or anything we
Just to
want to
kind of
elaborate on?
just to
Yeah,
kind
go
of
ahead, Jack.
elaborate on what you were talking about. When she loses her leg, there's a moment where she's mourning the loss of her leg.
Hmm.
She's crying, but then the very next scene, she's got to she can't cry anymore. She's got to escape, and from there it becomes survival, and then from there I think that survival like kind of rebuilds her confidence, her trust, and to the point where when they by the way, does anybody know how she's able to control the weapons that she controls from her?
Not
Everyone
not a
always wonders
damn
that.
clue.
You're not
Not a
supposed to think
damn
about it.
clue.
Logic doesn't apply to this movie. She
Exactly.
launches herself
Yeah,
near with the rocket
exactly.
launcher.
Okay.
She'd be
See,
dead if
I,
you
I
ever
would
tried that.
I asked the same question when I first watched it. And I was like, it's probably one of those things you don't want to think too much about.
True. Don't overthink it.
Maybe
Yeah,
Kegels are involved. We
the,
don't know.
I was just gonna say the fact that you don't really need to know to enjoy the movie. I think that's a
Exactly.
big deal. That's a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the same as it's true with both these movies. It's kind of like we discussed what was Stuntman Mike's motivation. Sometimes you don't need a
He's crazy.
motivation. Maybe he's just crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's scarier when you don't know. Kind of like in that scene from the first Scream movie when they're talking about why did Hannibal Lecter like to eat people? Why did Michael Myers do what he did? We don't know. That's what
Right.
makes it scarier. That's what makes Stuntman Mike scarier, at least up to a point. We didn't know, and that's what made them terrifying.
That's a good point.
So it doesn't always have to have an explanation. They just have to intimidate us, and at least the first half of that movie, he did. And to see, like I mentioned, Bruce Willis towards the end of the movie, towards the midpoint or the tail end of the third act, and he's down there in the underground of the military base with all of the DC-2 chemicals and everything, and he's starting to transform, and he just turns absolutely grotesque.
Hmm.
And then,
Within a matter of
uh,
seconds.
yeah, within a matter of seconds, and then he gets taken out by the chemical, the biological scientist who likes to collect guys' balls, and El Rey. And then, unfortunately, El Rey dies.
Yes,
But
unfortunately.
it's it's a valiant death. It's not a wasteful death. And he's like,
Right.
I will always be with you, because when he touches her stomach, we get the impression, we understand that she has conceived a child. And then we
Yes.
see that child. The one thing I do want to bring up and everything, and that is what I would call the epilogue, and essentially for Planet Terror. Very much you get the aesthetic of like the disaster movies from like the 1960s or 70s when you see the burnout ruins of the city in the
Right.
background, and you see Cherry leading a caravan of people to their base and everything, and we see that they've taken up residence in a I guess it would be a Mayan ruin,
That's what I
and
would
they're
thought
like,
it was. Yeah.
Right.
yeah, because if they're in Mexico, it's most likely going to be a Mayan ruin, not an
Hmm.
Aztec one, because the Aztecs were more
Makes
down in
sense.
Central America. The Maya were in Mexico and maybe a little bit into Upper Central America more so. But the way they structured that, or with the way they made the buildings look all burnt out and ruinous and everything, gives you the I don't know if any of you, and this includes y'all in the audience and everything, for those of you who are watching or um there was a disaster movie, a very well known disaster movie called Earthquake from I think like the 1960s or 70s, and in certain scenes the buildings look very skeletal, like they've been burned out, like they've been destroyed, and there's not much left of them, just their bare bones or the framework of them, essentially. And they do that same thing with the ending of Planet Terror.
Yeah.
And I loved that little nod that Rodriguez put in there for that.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of the post-apocalyptic, but we will survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world may have burnt down, but humanity will figure out a way to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. The baby on the strap to her back reminded me of this story of these two Vietnamese warriors. They were female warriors, and they went into battle, and one of them literally went. She was pregnant, and she gave birth to the baby in the middle of the battle, and she literally straps her newborn baby to her back, and she just keeps on fighting. And it reminded me of Cherry when I saw her with the baby strapped to her back in the end of Zam.
Interesting.
That's hardcore.
That's
That
very
is
hardcore.
Yeah. Her costuming also reminded me of, this was a comic series from I think like the early 90s called Mother Sarah or something like that, and her costuming was very well. I get the impression Rodriguez may have been a fan of that comic book series or something to that effect, because McGowan's costuming at the end is very reminiscent of that character's costuming as well, because she's got the white dress or the white robes or whatever you want to call it on, and she's got the cape, not the cape, the hood, and then she's got kind of a scarf type thing that covers her face and everything. Very cool aesthetic for that, not to mention the makeshift backpack or baby carrier for the baby. And then of course you see one of the infected pop up, and you see that minigun pop up, and like, she got an upgrade.
Just
It's
She did.
badass. So, anyway, any other thoughts on Planet Terror or Death Proof, guys?
I'm trying to think of my closing thoughts. Of the two, excuse me, I'd say what Tarantino he was trying to do a more subtle approach with his homage and do it in his own way. And it felt more like a typical Tarantino movie without being on the nose with like, oh, yes, it's supposed to be an exploitation, trash cinema homage sort of thing. So you can sort of see it divorced that context and still enjoy yourself. Rodriguez, I mean, it's a little bit more in your face. He kind of decides to do his thing and basically crank it up to 11 while homaging it. But at the same time, I don't like it as much because it's, a zombie apocalypse thing. I mean, he does it very well, but at the timing of it, there was just so many other zombie apocalypse things coming out and remakes like Dawn of the Dead and The Crazies and so forth that it just didn't do it for me as much as Death Proof. And they both have great practical special effects, but I gotta go with Death Proof, because Planet Terror has some great Tom Savini effects that are almost like a Paul Verhoeven movie, but car stunts will impress me more when they're done for real, especially in the 2000s when nobody's doing them for real anymore.
Alicia?
So for me, it's the reverse. I actually prefer the Planet Terror a little bit more, but I think it's because of Rose McGowan's character in that one, that she was able to hold her own. She said, because they're very similar to each other, because I at first was thinking they were done by the same director, because I can see a lot of their references where they're very similar to each other, but I could also see there's differences too. But the Planet Terror stood out to me a little bit more, because of the Rose McGowan character mostly, and also with the Josh Brolin's wife's character, because she still holds her own, because when he drugs her and stuff like that, the fact that she's able to drive that steering wheel in the car with her hands like this, and she's kind of hard to move the wheel and stuff, I'm thinking, how is she able to, wait, is she still drugged at this point? And I realized, yes, she is, and she's trying to get her child to safety. And she's telling the little boy, hey, you can't bring all your pets with you. You can't bring your scorpion. You can't bring your turtle. You can't bring whatever else you have with you. And he's like, oh, but they'll all live together happily. And
Scorpion will kill the other two. What are you talking about? That dumb kid, and then he blows his own brains out.
But then we see him at the end of the scene
Yeah.
because the end credit scene though is a little bit like, oh, did he survive actually, or is this like in someone's fantasy? I don't know. But yeah, Planet Terror stood out a little bit more for me. I would say that.
Yeah, that moment in the movie just was natural selection at work.
Yeah, Mayor speaking. Yeah, Jack. What about you? Of the two, which did you prefer, or is it kind of a tie?
Uh, I think I said before it was Tarantino's Death Proof, just
Hmm.
because I loved the just kind of like the story and the whole like, oh, the guy
Yeah.
gets his up and coming. I like Planet Terror in that, it brings this woman up from where it's like, oh, she came from this, so like early, just earlier in the night she was a go-go dancer who quit her
Hmm.
job. She wanted to become, a
A stand-up
doctor
comedian.
or a stand-up comedian, and by the end of it, she's like a leader of her people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's a survivor of humanity, and she's become a
yeah,
leader within
and,
humanity.
and they were able to show her as, vulnerable as, when she lost her leg.
Hmm.
They were able to show her, her sexuality, without making any. Yeah, I feel like nowadays it's like they can't. They're afraid to show that type of stuff nowadays.
Yeah,
You got
that's
you
true.
got you got Laura Croft in a new thing, and they completely change her entire backstory. Yeah,
Yeah, so completely changed her aesthetic and everything. Yeah, totally.
and aesthetic.
Yeah,
Afraid to have pretty women be pretty.
Yes,
Hmm.
and
Bad
even
after
essentially,
now.
yeah,
even
essentially,
when the
yeah,
voice actors have bigger. Anyway,
yes, obviously. I know exactly what you're talking about, Jack. One thing I do want to bring up, and then I will give my closing thoughts. Nothing more satisfying than seeing pervy, but playing pervy Tarantino's military officer get a wooden stake shoved in his eye, and then for him to literally, for his manhood to liquefy and fall off of him, and for him to
I
eventually
was,
die.
I was,
If only that happened to all sex offenders. But I could dream.
Yes,
I think that's a good
yes.
place to end at.
But personally, as I said before, as a child of the '80s and the teen of the '90s, both of these movies feed my inner action junkie aspect of my brain and my personality. So for me, they're both a win. Do I like Death Proof a little bit more than Planetary? Yes, I do, because of the premise and of course Kurt Russell. You can never go wrong with Kurt Russell. Oh, we love Kurt Russell. Yes, we do.
Yes.
How about you?
Well, obviously, but there is definitely. I love Planet Terror as well, and will I revisit these movies again? Almost definitely. So, anyways, folks, that's going to be the episode. We hope you all enjoyed it as always. Make sure you leave your comments down below with your thoughts on Death Proof and Planet Terror. I will leave also the links for Ace, Jack, and Alicia's channels in the description. Make sure you go check out their stuff and everything. Go check out their channels. Make sure you subscribe to them as well. And of course, if this is your first visit here, we hope you all enjoyed the discussion. We will be back next month with episode 7 of the Tarantino podcast, where we'll be covering uh, Mr. Tarantino's first foray into the Western genre with Django Unchained. And also make sure you keep a track on my social media and also their social medias as well. I will include the links for those as well with all of their channel links. Um, this month, obviously, the month of All Hallows Eve, we did Planet Terror tonight. Going to be doing a review with these two wonderful people down here of a ultra retro classic, The Invisible Man, starring the indomitable great Claude Rains. And then, of course, also going to be doing a review of a creature feature from the late 90s, The Relic. So be sure to keep an eye out for those. Make sure you do all the things. We all hope you have a great day wherever you're at. As I like to say, stay ambassadorial. Be honest, be genuine, but never take yourself too seriously. If you do all those things, you'll always have a place in the ambassadorial wing. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.